Hello, my friend, and welcome. In today's video, what I wanted to do was share with you a recent question I was asked on YouTube about, is there a age restriction on student visas? And also, how can it impact on the future of working in Australia once the course has been completed? So in this video today, I'm going to cover about age restrictions and working opportunities, and also what are the requirements of eligibility to obtain your visa successfully. So as part of today, what I wanted to do is provide a full disclosure as we get started in running through this information in age restrictions and eligibility requirements for your student visa. So first of all, what I wanted to say was that I am an education agent, not a migration agent. So my focus is to assist you with finding the right course for you. And also the information provided in this video is a guide only for when it comes to migration and visa information. I recommend that you consult with a qualified migration agent for professional guidance and advice on visa related matters. And if you're looking to engage with a migration agent, I'm always happy, or I can assist you to find one if you need one. When it comes to undertaking a student visa, you have three different options, whether you're looking to study a full-time course, or if you're looking to accompany a student as their guardian. So this is for students that are under the age of 18 and you're coming out to assist them. Or if you're coming out to Australia to complete a workplace-based or professional development training. Now, for the purpose of today's video, I'm going to focus purely on studying as a full-time student. If you are looking for information for if you're under the age of 18, please comment below and I'll be happy to create a future video in reference to this area. As a full-time student, we refer to the student visa as a subclass 500 student visa. Now what this does is, as you can see on my screen, it allows you to stay up to 5 years in line with your enrolments. So that means 5 years worth of student enrolments. So this could be one course such as, say, like a bachelor's degree, or it could be 2 or 3 courses that make up the 5 years. And the cost of obtaining your visa is $630 unless you're exempt. Now, the exemption only comes into effect if you're already as an onshore student and you've been affected by COVID. Now, in order to obtain this visa, you must be 6 years or older, and you can stay for the duration of your course, and you must be enrolled in full-time course at a recognized education institution. So as an education agent, this is one of the tasks that I would do to assist you to make sure that you are at a recognized Australian institution. Now, as you can see from the student visa, there is no age restrictions on how old a limit is before you can apply for one, which is fantastic news. Doesn't matter if you're 30, 40, or even 50 or more, you can still apply for this student visa. There are 3 areas that you'll need to consider as part of your student visa. One is the processing time, and how long that may take will depend on the type of visa that you're applying for, but it can vary between the different types of student visas. The other thing you'll also need to consider is what you can do on your visa. So let's say, for example, with this visa, you can participate in an eligible course of study, bring family members to Australia with you, apply online in or outside of Australia, and work unlimited hours in any sector. Now, the thing to remember with this is that as of this recording at this time, being June in 2022, this can be subject to change. So while students are currently in Australia, they can work 38 hours full time, but when this eventually changes, students will need to go back to their full-time capacity of study and work up to 20 hours per week. And this will come into effect. We're not sure when, but it's something that you'll need to focus and keep up to date with the Department of Home Affairs website. Another thing you must also consider as part of the enrolment process is that you need to be enrolled in a course of study in Australia, hold overseas student health cover for that duration. So that means that if you get sick, you have the ability to go to a doctor. And for anybody that's over the age of 6 and has or is applying for a visa, must hold the overseas student health cover. And if you're under the age of 18, there must be a plan in place to be able to manage a minor while they are living here in the country. But as I mentioned earlier, if you want further information on under 18 years of age, I can cover that in a future video. And so the source here is from the Department of Home Affairs. So I've put the link on there. So at any given time, you can always come back to this link and check it for yourself or with your migration agent to make sure that you're meeting the requirements for the student visa. As we saw earlier, the visa processing time can vary. So this is one area that we need to be mindful of, and we can check the Department of Home Affairs website for any potential updates for the future if this is improving or not. The biggest issue at the moment is that with the borders reopening again here in Australia, there's been an influx of applications, which means that it's delaying the process of international students in obtaining their visas to come and study here in Australia. So what I would recommend is that you aim to plan ahead to avoid any potential disappointment. And so give yourself plenty of time to determine when you're going to be studying, what paperwork you're going to need to make sure that you can meet the requirements of not being delayed in starting your course on time. So what I've gone ahead and done is in the next slide, I've provided a summary table to assist you with what are the current waiting times to process your visa. As you can see, you can use the same visa for a different number of streams. So in this case, you can see you've got the postgraduate research visa, you've got your English visa, you've got your visa for vocational education and training, and you've got your visa for the higher education sector. Now, on the top of my screen here, we have 25% of visas finalized, 50% of visas finalized, 70% and 90%. So what that means is that on my screen, you can see the number of days it takes to process visas. So for example, if I was a new student and I was applying for my visa, for 25% of those students, they may need to wait 33 days before they can get their visa. In 75% cases, visas are applied within 7 months. In 90%, 12 months is taken. But as of March 2022, 90% of applications where the client is outside of Australia were finalised in 53 days. So it's around here. So if you're looking to come to Australia, one of the recommendations is give yourself at least 2 months to 3 months opportunity to apply. So if it's June now and you're looking to undertake a course in October, now is this time to apply. And if it's, for example, October, then you should be looking for an intake maybe for the start of the new year in January, just to give you a bit of an overview of some of the timelines that you're looking at for the future. The eligibility requirements that we're going to be looking at and discussing is we're going to be looking at enrolments, the English language, when you can obtain an English exemption, information about health insurance, how to obtain it and what is it, applying for student visas whilst in Australia, and if you can be affected by the type of visa that you currently have if you're already here in Australia, the financial requirements, also the genuine temporary entry application requirement, what your character requirements are, any medical requirements that you may need to obtain, the Australian Statement of Values, any previous debt that you may have, and any visa cancellations and refusals that you may have had in the past. Some of these things can impact your future visa, and we're going to be discussing them in more detail. As you can see from the previous slide, there are a number of things that we need to make sure we can cover off to be successful in our application process. So when we look at the eligibility requirements for enrolments, we need to ensure that we are enrolled in a course of study and provide evidence of this. So you must include evidence of enrolment in study with your student visa application, or your application will not be valid and can't be processed. So the thing to note here is that the department can ask you for evidence of your English language skills after you've submitted your application at any time while they are processing your application, even though the document checklist tools, which are on this website, uh, may say that you may not require evidence of the English language skills at the time of your application. So if you need to provide evidence of your English language skill, you must provide evidence that you have obtained a certain test score in an English language test that the department has approved, or fall into an exemption category listed below. So let's have a look and see what that is. So when we're looking at eligible language providers, we've got the IELTS test, so the International English Language Testing System. We've got TEFL, internet-based test. We've got the Cambridge English Advanced Certificate in Advanced English Test. We've got the Pearson's Test of English for academic levels, so the PTE academics. And we've also got an occupational English test list as well. Now, depending on the institution you go to, they may also allow you to undertake their test as well. So when we're looking at the minimum scores, the most common test that is taken in Australia is the IELTS test. So the minimum score for entry is 5.5, unless you are looking to apply for an English school or an ELICOS school, then the minimum requirement may be a 5 if you're looking to undertake a 10-week English program. If it's a 20-week English program, then your minimum score needs to be 4.5. So as you can see, depending on whether you're applying to go directly into an English school, or if you're looking to apply directly into a main institution, your English level testing will vary between institution to institution depending on what you're applying for. In some cases with English, you may be eligible for an exemption, but it's very rare and you need to meet certain requirements. So when we're looking at that, let's look at the following. So you may require or may have an exemption if you are a citizen or hold a passport from the UK, USA, Canada, New Zealand, or the Republic of Ireland. Now, if you don't have that, you are an applicant who is a foreign affairs or defense sponsored student or a secondary exchange student. Not very common that I come across this one. You are enrolled in a principal course of study that is a registered school course, a standalone English language intensive course for overseas students, so ELICOS, so that's your English school that I was referring to earlier. So if you may be able to apply directly through the English school to do their test as opposed to like an IELTS test and things like that. A course registered to be delivered in the language other than English, or a registered postgraduate research course. So there's some of the ways you can be exempt. But you also it can be exempt if you have completed at least 5 years of study in English in one or more of the following countries. So Australia, UK, USA, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, or the Republic of Ireland. Or in the last 2 years before applying for the student visa, you completed in Australia and in the English language either a senior secondary certificate of education, so that's like our equivalency of year 12, high school, or a substantial component of a course leading to a qualification from the Australian Qualification Framework at the Certificate 4 or higher level while you hold a student visa. So significant could be anywhere like, for example, 60 to maybe 80% of the course. You may not have completed it, but you've got most of the way to complete that particular course as well. But the point to make a note of here is you may be required to provide evidence of an English test score with your visa application if you hold a British national overseas passport. So that's just something else to also think about in that situation. One of the other requirements that you'll need is, as well as an enrolment and showing that you've got that, you also need to demonstrate that you've got your overseas student health cover as well. So whether it be for yourself or for your family member, you still need to show this if you're coming to Australia. The reason for this is the government wants to ensure that you have the right cover in case you get sick or you need some medical assistance, because without it, it may be quite costly for you to receive the right treatment that you need. So a couple of things to consider here is that you must start from the day you and your family arrive in Australia, not the day your course starts. So that's your health cover. If you have been granted a visa and want to travel to Australia before your course begins, the overseas health cover start date must be the same as the date you arrive, not the date your course starts. So generally this is minimum of 1 week to 1 month before your course starts. So you must ensure that you don't enter Australia before your overseas health cover begins and maintain your overseas health cover until you leave Australia. You may be refused entry to Australia if you cannot prove you have health insurance in place when you arrive. So generally the rule of thumb is that you ensure that your student health cover covers you for a month after you finish your course as well. So a month before and a month after. So that way, in case your course, if that goes a little bit longer, or if you're planning on staying a little bit, just that little bit longer, you've got that cover in place. Now, an exemption here is you do not need to have overseas student health cover if you are a Norwegian student covered by the Norwegian National Insurance Scheme, a Swedish student covered by Kammologiet, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly, a Belgian student covered under the Reciprocal Healthcare Agreement with Australia. So there's some of the exemptions that you could possibly have. So what do I do if I don't have that exemption and I want to obtain my overseas health cover? So what you can do is you can do it yourself. So you can undertake an internet search and try to find a provider for yourself, or as a service, as a education agent, you can let me do it for you and I could find you the best possible deal based on the duration that you're looking for to help you with that cover as well. Generally, for a single person, you would expect to pay anywhere between $1,100 to $1,300 for a single person based on a 12-month duration. There are a couple of things that you may need to consider if you're already in Australia and you're looking to change to a student visas. These actually may impact you in actually obtaining a visa while you're here. So the things you need to look for is if you have one of these visas, you can't apply for this visa, so that's a student visa, while you are in Australia. So let's say, for example, if you've got a domestic worker, temporary, diplomatic, and consular visa, you will not be eligible to apply for a student visa. If you have a temporary work, international relations visa, in the domestic work visa stream, you may not be able to apply for a student visa either. Or let's say you've got a diplomatic visa, or you've got a transit visa, or if you've got a visitor visa, subclass 600 in the sponsored family stream or in approved destination status stream, you may not be eligible to apply for a student visa if you are already in Australia. Another aspect and an important aspect of when you're applying for or checking your eligibility to study in Australia, you need to demonstrate that you are in a financially stable position. What this means is that you need to show that you have sufficient funds to cover your travel costs and 12 months of living and tuition fees for you and your accompanying family members and school costs for any school-aged children, or that can show that you have evidence that your spouse or parents are willing to support you and they have an annual income of at least $62,222 for single students and or at least $72,592 for students that are accompanied by family members. So that's something to consider. So as part of when you're looking at your eligibility, generally what I do is I ask you to complete a financial viability template to see where you sit when it comes to being financially capable of living in Australia while you're still here studying, and also that you can cover your living expenses, and just to make sure that you're not going to have any type of financial hardship. One of the other requirements are that you need to demonstrate that you are a genuine temporary entrant to Australia. So what we're saying here is that you need to demonstrate that you're coming to study in Australia and then take those quality skills back home to your home country and utilize them, whether it be for business or some other means that you're intending to go back home once you've completed your qualification here. So you will need to write a personal statement addressing the GTE requirements. So what this means is that you need to demonstrate for the purposes of why you're coming to Australia, how this study is going to help you, how's it going to help you back home, and those kind of things. In the future, I'll have a separate video on this in more detail, but if you do want more information on this, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and as that video comes available, or if you're intending to book in earlier before that, you can always reach out to myself and we can talk further about it. You will also need to meet the character requirements. So you must be of good character to visit or live in Australia. This means you must pass a character test and remain of good character. So what this means is that you have no criminal record, or if you do have a criminal record, that you've disclosed that to the government, so there's no particular surprises. And also that you're not suspiciously involved in any particular things that may not be a good thing for Australia. For example, maybe a specific groups and those kind of things. After all, Australia is trying to protect itself, and also that you don't pose a risk to the country as well. So these things are considered as part of your application and part of your GTE and those kind of things, just to make sure that the right people are coming into the country for the right reasons. There may be a requirement to undertake a medical examination as well as part of your visa application process. And the reason for this is in making sure visa applicants meet the health requirements. So the idea behind this is it protects the Australian community from public health and safety risks, especially active tuberculosis. It helps the country to control how much they spend on services like social security benefits, allowances, and pensions. It ensures Australian citizens and permanent residents can access health and community services that are in short supply at any given time. And as part of that, when you go to a medical officer of the Commonwealth, if you have to do that, they will provide the update as part of your visa application to make sure that you're not a risk to the country. Another thing that you may be required to do is sign the Australian Values Statement. And so if you're over the age of 18 years of age, you must have read or have explained to you the Life in Australia booklet and signed an Australian values statement that confirms you will respect the Australian way of life and obey Australian laws. Now, I'll make these links available to you in the comments below as well. So a thing that can affect your visa application is if you have previous debts. So if you or any family member, including those who don't apply for the visa with you, owe the Australian government money, you or they must have paid it back or arranged to pay it back before you can be successful in your student visa application. So very important for you to understand that. So make sure that you don't have any outstanding debts. Another thing that may impact your student visa, if you've previously applied for a visa and have been refused, or if your visa has previously been cancelled. You might not be granted this visa if you had a visa cancelled or refused while you were in Australia. The reason for this is because it indicates that you may not have met your visa requirements in the past. So there may be a period of time, sometimes up to 3 years, before you can reapply. The alternative there is to apply for reconsideration, so like an appeals or a hearing, to see if you can overturn that to assist you, but it may cost you time and money. So the best thing is, if you ever get an Australian visa, always try to adhere to all the requirements, so that way you don't find yourself in this kind of situation in the future.
If you found this video useful, please share it with your friends. And also, don't forget that the service that we provide is free. So if you wish to make a booking with myself, head down to the link below in the comments section for a 1-hour free consultation. And let's see how I can help you to develop your opportunities of pathways of studying in Australia. I would appreciate it if you hit the like button and the subscribe button, so that way you won't miss any videos that I make in the future. And in the next video, what I'm going to do is talk about English as a requirement. So if you're kind of feeling like you're a little bit stuck in your English language and you feel like you need some additional support, over here, I'm going to provide a link to a video in why you should study English in Australia.